The winter morning had dawned gray over Boston's financial district, the kind of slate-colored sky that promised either snow or nothing at all. Maya Chen stood in the lobby of Sterling and Associates, clutching a portfolio case that contained 18 months of work she had completed while her daughter slept, while she pumped breast milk in supply closets, while she memorized building codes in the 3 hours between her night shift at the library and her morning classes at the community college. No one knew any of that. They saw her as the quiet assistant from the drafting department, the one with the slight accent that surfaced when she was tired, the one who wore sensible flats instead of heels, the one who always said please and thank you, as if she were still learning English instead of being fluent in 3 languages. That morning, she was about to present her sustainable urban redevelopment proposal to the partners. It was the culmination of everything she had taught herself: the green roof systems, the passive solar calculations, the rainwater harvesting integration that would reduce building energy consumption by 40%. She had done it all in secret because she knew what happened when women like her spoke up in rooms like this. "Miss Chun," the receptionist said, barely glancing up from her screen. "They're ready for you. Conference room C." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Asterisk, I can do this. I've done the work. I've done more than the work. Asterisk. She walked down the corridor lined with architectural awards, framed photographs of gleaming skyscrapers, and the faces of men who had built careers on the backs of people like her. When she pushed open the heavy oak door, the room fell silent. Margaret Sterling sat at the head of the table. 62 years old, silver hair cropped close to her skull, eyes that had been described as shark-like by more than one junior associate. She had built Sterling and Associates from nothing, and she never let anyone forget it. Beside her sat the other partners, all men, all white, all wearing suits that cost more than Maya's monthly rent. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," Maya began, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. "I've prepared a comprehensive proposal for the Harbor District project. I believe my approach to sustainable urban redevelopment addresses." Margaret held up one manicured hand. "Before you begin, Maya, let me save everyone some time." She leaned back in her leather chair, the expensive fabric creaking with authority. "The Harbor District project is already being assigned to Robert here." She gestured to a man in his 50s who barely acknowledged Maya's presence. "He graduated from Harvard. He's been with us for 22 years. His father was a partner at this firm." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "But I've been working on this for 18 months. You asked for alternative proposals. You said." "I said we would consider all submissions." Margaret's voice was ice, polished and cruel. "But consideration doesn't mean selection. Maya, you're a talented drafter. Your technical skills are adequate. But this project requires vision. It requires pedigree. It requires the kind of background that comes from years of exposure to high-level design theory, not night classes at a community college." The room was so quiet Maya could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead. "I graduated with honors," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I worked while I studied. I taught myself." "Self-taught," Margaret interrupted, a thin smile playing at her lips. "Do you hear yourself? Do you think developers want to invest millions of dollars in a project designed by someone who taught herself? Do you think the city council will approve a plan that comes from a mother who worked night shifts at a library?" The words landed like physical blows. Maya felt each one strike her chest, her throat, the fragile armor she had constructed around her dreams. Asterisk, don't cry. Don't you dare cry in front of them. Asterisk. "I raised my daughter alone," Maya said, her voice cracking despite her efforts. "I came to this country with nothing. I learned the building codes. I memorized the zoning regulations. I spent every night." "That's precisely my point," Margaret said, folding her hands on the table. "Your story is admirable, Maya. Truly. It's the kind of story we tell at charity galas to demonstrate our commitment to diversity. But admiration doesn't translate to architectural expertise. You don't have the training. You don't have the connections. You don't have the pedigree." Robert snorted softly. One of the other partners chuckled. Maya's hands were shaking now. She gripped the portfolio case so tightly her knuckles went white. She thought of her daughter, Lily, who had asked her that morning why Mama always looked so tired. She thought of the scholarship she had turned down because she couldn't afford childcare. She thought of the months she had spent researching, designing, refining, believing, foolishly, that excellence might be enough. "May I at least present my proposal?" Maya asked, hating the plea in her voice. "Just to show you what I've—" "No," Margaret said flatly. "I think we're done here. Please close the door on your way out." Maya stood frozen for a moment. Then she walked to the door, her legs moving mechanically, her mind spiraling into a dark void of humiliation. As she reached for the handle, Margaret's voice cut through the silence one final time. "And Maya, I'd recommend you focus on your drafting. Perhaps find a position with a smaller firm, one that's more suited to your background." Maya turned around. She looked at Margaret Sterling, this woman who had built her career by stepping on the necks of others, who had never faced the obstacles Maya had faced, who had inherited her father's firm and called it meritocracy. "I understand," Maya said quietly. "Thank you for your time." She walked out of the conference room, down the corridor, past the receptionist who didn't look up, and into the elevator. She made it to the parking garage before the tears came. She sat in her 10-year-old Honda with her head against the steering wheel and sobbed, ugly, gasping sobs that shook her entire body. I can't let Lily see me like this. I can't let her know that her mother's best wasn't enough. She drove home to their small apartment in Dorchester, the neighborhood where immigrants learned English and raised children and dreamed of better lives. Her daughter was at school. The apartment was empty. Maya sat on the threadbare couch and stared at the walls. What now? She thought about quitting. She thought about giving up architecture entirely and finding a job that would pay the bills, something stable, something that didn't require her to beg for scraps from women like Margaret Sterling. But I promised myself. I promised I would build something. I promised Lily she could be anything. She opened her laptop. She opened her proposal. She read every word she had written, every calculation she had made, every idea she had poured into the document. They're wrong. They're wrong about me. They're wrong about what I can do. The next morning, Maya Chen did something that surprised even herself. She didn't go to the library for her night shift. She didn't go to the drafting office. Instead, she went to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's Department of Urban Planning and asked to see Professor James Morrison. Professor James Morrison was 72 years old, had won the Pritzker Prize twice, and had designed buildings that had reshaped skylines in Singapore, Dubai, and Shanghai. He had also, in a previous life, been Maya's professor at the Extension School, the only one who had seen something in her besides her accent and her circumstances. "Maya," he said, ushering her into his cluttered office. "You look like you haven't slept in days." "I haven't," she admitted, "but I have something to show you." She opened her laptop and pulled up the Harbor District proposal. She walked him through every page, every calculation, every innovative design element. She didn't apologize. She didn't soften her language. She showed him exactly what she had built, and she showed him why it mattered. When she finished, James leaned back in his chair and removed his reading glasses. "Maya," he said slowly, "this is extraordinary." "Thank you, Professor. But I'm not finished." He held up a hand. "This isn't just good. This is revolutionary. The passive solar integration alone could reduce energy costs by nearly half. The green roof system you've designed is more sophisticated than anything I've seen from major firms. And the rainwater harvesting. Maya, do you understand what you've created here?" Maya blinked. I thought it was good. I thought I could." "You thought you could present this to Margaret Sterling and she would recognize its value?" James shook his head. "Margaret Sterling has been coasting on her father's reputation for 40 years. She hasn't designed anything original since the 1990s. She doesn't recognize excellence when she sees it because she's forgotten what it looks like." Maya felt hope stirring in her chest, dangerous, fragile hope. "Then what do I do?" James smiled. "You come with me to the International Sustainable Design Conference next month. I'm the keynote speaker. I want you to present your proposal to the entire panel. But they won't listen to me. I'm nobody. I'm... You're brilliant, James interrupted. And brilliance doesn't care about pedigrees, Maya. It doesn't care about family connections or prestigious degrees. It cares about ideas. And your ideas are better than anything Margaret Sterling has produced in her entire career. The International Sustainable Design Conference was held at the Boston Convention Center, a vast glass edifice that seemed to swallow people whole. Maya stood backstage, her hands clammy, her heart racing, watching the audience file into the main hall. Asterisk, there are 5,000 people out there. 5,000 architects, developers, investors. And I'm about to tell them what I think. Asterisk. She looked down at her proposal. She had spent the past month refining it, adding new research, consulting with experts James had introduced her to. She had worked every night after Lily went to sleep, fueled by caffeine and the memory of Margaret Sterling's dismissive smile. Adequate, Maya whispered to herself. She called my work adequate. Let's see what she thinks of adequate now. James introduced her as the most exciting emerging voice in sustainable architecture. The audience applauded politely, expecting another academic paper, another theoretical discussion. Then Maya stepped forward. She spoke for 40 minutes. She didn't use notes. She didn't read from a script. She showed slides of her designs, the green roofs, the passive solar, the rainwater systems, and explained each concept with the clarity of someone who had mastered her craft through sheer necessity. When you come from nothing, she said, you learn to make every resource count. You learn to see value where others see waste. You learn that survival requires innovation. I designed this proposal not because I had the best education, but because I had the best motivation. My daughter deserves a world where buildings don't destroy the environment. My community deserves architecture that respects the people who live in it. And that, I believe, is what excellence truly means. The audience rose to their feet. James Morrison was the first to stand. Then the others followed, hundreds of people, thousands of people, applauding her work, her vision, her courage. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. Asterisk, I did it. I actually did it. Asterisk. Margaret Sterling heard about the conference presentation within hours. The architecture world was small, and news traveled fast. By the time Maya returned to her apartment that evening, her phone was ringing with calls from firms across the country, all of them wanting to know if she was available for consultation, collaboration, or full-time employment. Then the email arrived. Maya, it read, I was made aware of your presentation at the Sustainable Design Conference. I must admit, I was impressed by your work. It appears I may have underestimated you. I would like to offer you a senior architect position at Sterling and Associates, reporting directly to Robert. The salary would be commensurate with your new visibility. Maya stared at the screen. Asterisk, she's offering me a job. After everything. After she humiliated me in front of everyone. Asterisk. She thought about accepting. The money would be good. The prestige would be enormous. It would be vindication, proof that she had won, that Margaret Sterling had been forced to acknowledge her talent. But then she thought about that conference room. She thought about the dismissal, the cruelty, the words adequate and pedigree and self-taught. She thought about all the other women, all the other immigrants, all the other people who had been told they weren't good enough. Asterisk, no. I won't let her buy my silence with a paycheck. Asterisk. Maya typed her response carefully. Her voice was calm, professional, and utterly firm. Asterisk, Margaret, thank you for your offer. However, I will not be accepting a position at Sterling and Associates. I've decided to launch my own firm, Chen Sustainable Architecture. We will be accepting clients starting next month, and we will be prioritizing projects that serve underrepresented communities. I wish you the best with your work. Asterisk. She paused, then added one more line. Asterisk, excellence cannot be measured by pedigrees, prestigious degrees, or family connections. It is measured by the lives we improve, the communities we serve, and the integrity we bring to our craft. I hope this lesson serves you as it has served me. Asterisk. Chen Sustainable Architecture opened its doors on a rainy Tuesday in September. Maya had rented a small office in Dorchester, close to her apartment, close to her daughter's school. She had hired 3 other women, all of whom had been dismissed by other firms, all of whom had been told they weren't good enough, all of whom had kept dreaming anyway. Maria was an immigrant from Mexico who had designed affordable housing in her home country. Fatima was a single mother from Pakistan who had studied sustainable materials at a university that no one in Boston had heard of. Priya was an Indian-American woman who had left a prestigious firm because she refused to compromise her ethics. "You deserve to be here," Maya told them on their first day. "You deserve to be seen. You deserve to build things that matter. And I promise you this, we will never, ever treat excellence like it belongs only to the privileged." The work was hard. The hours were long. The pay was barely enough to cover their expenses. But Maya had never been happier. Their first project was a community center in Roxbury, a small building designed to serve the immigrant families who lived there. Maya incorporated every sustainable element she had ever designed, every innovation she had researched, every lesson she had learned. When the community center opened, the mayor attended. James Morrison attended. Several of the conference attendees attended. Margaret Sterling did not attend. But she did send a letter, hand-delivered, elegantly embossed on heavy cream paper. Asterisk Maya, I was wrong about you. I have spent my career believing that success required privilege, that talent without pedigree was somehow less valuable. You have proven me wrong, and I am grateful for the lesson. I would like to apologize genuinely, not strategically. I would also like to request your advice on several upcoming projects. I have much to learn, and I believe you are the person who can teach me. Asterisk. Maya read the letter twice. Then she folded it carefully and placed it in her desk drawer. Asterisk, she asked for forgiveness. She admitted she was wrong. She didn't have to do that. She could have stayed silent, stayed arrogant, stayed distant. Asterisk. But Maya didn't respond immediately. She waited. She thought. That evening, she sat with her daughter in their small apartment, now slightly less small, slightly less threadbare, and told Lily the whole story. The humiliation, the dismissal, the conference, the firm. "Mom," Lily said, her eyes wide, "you're incredible." "No," Maya said softly. "I'm just someone who refused to let someone else define my worth." The next morning, Maya wrote back to Margaret. Her response was brief, but it was from the heart. Asterisk Margaret, I appreciate your apology. It takes courage to admit when we are wrong, and I respect that courage. However, I also need you to understand something. The excellence I practice, the excellence that my team practices, cannot be measured by titles, salaries, or prestigious firms. It can only be measured by the lives we improve and the communities we serve. If you are genuinely interested in learning from me, then I invite you to visit my firm. See the work we do. Meet the women who make it possible. But understand this, I will never again apologize for my background, my education, or my journey. Those things are not weaknesses. They are my greatest strengths. Asterisk. A month later, Margaret Sterling visited Chen's sustainable architecture. She walked through the small office, looked at the designs on the walls, spoke with Maria, Fatima, and Priya. She didn't patronize them. She didn't condescend. She listened. You've built something remarkable here, Margaret said quietly. I was wrong about you. I was wrong about everything. Thank you, Maya said. But this isn't about me. This is about everyone who's ever been told they weren't enough. This is about changing the way our industry works. Margaret nodded slowly. I want to help. I want to fund a scholarship for women from underrepresented backgrounds, women who want to study architecture, but don't have the resources. I want to do it in your name. Maya considered this. Not in my name, she said firmly. In the name of the women who will come after us. The ones who won't have to fight quite as hard as we did. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. Maya reached out and took her hand. I forgave you the moment you admitted you were wrong. That's what excellence looks like, Margaret. It's not about never failing. It's about having the courage to grow. The years that followed were years of triumph. Chen's sustainable architecture grew from a small office in Dorchester to a thriving firm with projects across the country. Maya became a mentor to countless young women, a voice for sustainable design, and a symbol of what could be achieved when talent met determination. She never forgot her roots. She never forgot the night shifts at the library, the sleepless nights, the humiliation in that conference room. Those experiences had shaped her, honed her, made her who she was. And when she received the American Institute of Architects' highest honor, the gold medal, she dedicated it to every person who had ever been told they weren't good enough. "This award is not for me," she said, standing at the podium. "It is for every immigrant who built a new life with nothing but hope. Every single mother who worked while her child slept. Every person who was dismissed because of their background, their accent, their lack of pedigree. You are enough. You have always been enough. And excellence, true excellence, will always recognize you." Margaret Sterling attended the ceremony. She sat in the front row, tears streaming down her face, applauding louder than anyone else. When she approached Maya afterward, she was shaking. "I'm so proud of you," Margaret said. "I'm so proud of the woman you've become." Maya smiled. "I'm proud of the woman you've become too, Margaret. Growth is hard. It requires humility. It requires honesty. And you've done both." "I hope one day you can truly forgive me," Margaret whispered. Maya looked into the older woman's eyes. She thought about the pain, the humiliation, the years of struggle. Then she thought about everything she had built, the firm, the legacy, the countless women she had mentored and empowered. Asterisk forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about refusing to let the past define your future. Asterisk. "I forgave you a long time ago," Maya said softly. "But more importantly, I forgave myself. I learned that my worth had never depended on whether someone else recognized it. That was the lesson I needed to learn, and I'm grateful for it." Margaret embraced her. Maya embraced her back. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you, Maya thought. It's refusing to let their choices destroy the person you were always meant to become. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Zarabell Stories and click the notification bell because we share these real-life professional redemption stories weekly, stories about underestimated individuals who completely transform industries after being dismissed. Your support helps us bring more of these authentic experiences to light. Now let me tell you what happened next, because the real transformation was just beginning. Asterisk.